Right, so this is a relatively short video on um, how to build a cold email system, a step-by-step guide to get results. So for anyone looking to start up a cold email, because it tends to be the most cost-effective channel when you are starting out before in the beginning. Very common in B2B. I wouldn't say it's excellent for B2C, but my assumption is that you're dealing with B2B, so cold email tends to work best. Um, Depending on where you are, revenue wise. If you're below 30,000, like 30k in a month, cold email is typically the best place to start. And cold calls too. I generally prefer cold calls because I prefer the feedback that I get. Like, you just get feedback faster if you know what you're doing, and then it does help you on the sales call too. So I think that's a win-win for me. But cold email is generally the path of least resistance when you are starting out, and I also do this in tandem with cold calling. So the first thing you probably want to do is to have a domain and inbox setup. So never use your primary domain when you're sending out an inbox. So you have a website. Let's say your website is c.com. You never want to send out emails from this domain, simply because you're going to land in spam because of the sheer amount of volume that you need to actually scale this thing. So setting like 2,000 emails from a single domain, like one inbox, is just not going to work. You're going to land in spam very quickly. You probably already tried this, and that's why you're looking for a better way to do this. So you probably want to purchase a bunch of secondary domains. So one of them is a good place to start would be Porkbun. I think Porkbun is another good place, but you can use any domain providers. There's Porkbun, there's GoDaddy, there's Namecheap. There are many, I think, but I think the standard is actually Porkbun. Yeah, it's So I think this is the website. You can use anyone. Anyone is typically fine. But Porkbun is just the most common. There's still GoDaddy. There's still Spaceship. There's many. It doesn't really matter where you get your domains from. But this is just an example of where you would get your domains. So assuming you want to buy a domain from c.com, so you would want to buy extra domains to be able to send more emails. Um, so then when you do have it, you also have to get inboxes. And you would have to use a premium reseller to set up multiple Google or Microsoft inbox. Now, in theory, you can buy these inboxes directly from Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, but there are also other resellers that you can get from as well. I think it also comes at a cheaper rate, but then we have issues like deliverability. So usually know which one you're weighing, but I would recommend you start off with just simple Google or Microsoft inboxes. You can never go wrong with those ones. They have the most deliverability, and they also have the least likelihood of getting into spam. Now, when it comes to warm-up periods, they tend to vary, but it has to be like a ramp-up period. So you can't really force this. So it's a minimum of 14 weeks. Your inboxes have to sit for a minimum of 14 weeks. Sorry, 14 days, not weeks. So that's about 2 weeks. 2 weeks to sort everything out. This just prevents your inboxes or your emails from going into spam when you do end up sending emails. Yeah, and sending limits. I think this is where most people get it wrong. I got it wrong initially here. A very good threshold is about 15 emails per inbox. So you never want to go above 15 emails per inbox. There was a time where I was doing 75. 75 emails per inbox. I thought I was getting lots of emails in, but it turns out a lot of them were going into spam. I just want to avoid that. So nothing more than 15. In fact, 25 max, but 25 is even pushing it. In fact, I'll probably scale that back to 15. You can't go wrong with 15. Anything less than 15, you're probably losing efficiency, and that's important when you're scaling. So 15 is the sweet spot. So 15 emails to dodge spam filters. Keep your sending volume extremely low per account. Sending a maximum of 15 to 20 emails per day from each inbox. So I think when you're starting out, you typically want to have at least the minimum cold emails you'll be sending per day is roughly 1,000 for what I've seen. Anything lower than that, you're not going to get results as you'd like to. It's very easy to overestimate the kind of results you get from cold email, but it's best to be patient and not assume that you'll be getting so much when you're sending less than 1,000, because the overall email to booked meeting rate is about 0.1%. Now some people might say that theirs is higher, but on average is 0.1%. So for every email you send, you're going to book 0.1% of those people you send an email to. Now it sounds low, but then when you scale it up, like when you send like 10,000, 30,000, 40,000 emails, you see that you're going to be booking and it's relatively easy to do. So the math checks out, the ROI checks out. So phase 2 would be extract hyper targeted lead lists. Now this one is a bit tricky because a common trap that you would probably fall into would be going too niche, so going too specific. You want to avoid that, but then you also want to avoid targeting too broadly, because then your copy is not going to be as relevant as it should be. So you want to target an industry you're familiar with, so you can incorporate relevant insider terminology into your messaging. Just avoid notoriously difficult and saturated markets like B2B SaaS, or I think B2B SaaS is probably the most common one. I was quick to say like things like local services, but those err on the side of ROI problems rather than competition problems. So also ideal company and size location. Primarily want to target the US. I don't know where you are or where you're watching this from, but targeting North America and Europe tends to do best. This is where businesses actually run. This is where a lot of things actually happen. Use Apollo.io to target companies based in the USA with a headcount of 3 to 10 employees. No, I would probably make this 10 to 20 or 25, because targeting 3 to 10 employees, depending on your industry, you'll get a lot of meetings booked, but then you don't expect to be able to charge something substantial. So you're probably going to be charging things like in the lower tickets, as opposed to charging companies that have 10 to 25 employees, because you can just naturally charge higher there. At this size, it's much easier to bypass bureaucracy. It's still much easier to bypass bureaucracy at 10 to 25 employees, and you can reach decision makers faster. Not as fast as you would for 3 to 10, but then you have to think in terms of like ROI. So what is the end goal? The end goal is not really to get in front of as much decision makers as possible, even though that is a requirement to provide value and get paid. But then don't fall for the local optimization trap. So because you are not getting enough calls or sales calls, you then make your filtering less specific, so that you end up targeting the wrong people just for the sake of getting calls. But then when you do get those calls, you realize that a lot of these people are like unqualified. So you just want to avoid that. Focus on the end goal, and everything else would pick up itself. If you're targeting higher tickets, understand that naturally you're going to have less sales calls, and understand that naturally your close rates might be lower, or maybe even higher, might even stay around the same if you do your qualification and pre-call setup well. But that's a video for another time. And then data verification. So when you get your data from Apollo, it's more of a database, so it's not always up to date and in real time. You would want to use secondary software to verify that the emails are still useful. They can still be delivered to. So once you script the leads, run them through an email verification tool to ensure that you're contacting valid up to the addresses, which keeps bounce rate safely low. You won't have a bounce rate of less than 0.2%. No, sorry, 2%. If a bounce rate has more than 2%, you might end up in spam. So you just want to have that in mind. Keep your bounce rate low. If your bounce rate is low, then it's easy to avoid deliverability issues if you know what you are doing. So just keep your bounce rate low. Then this is the actual thing you are selling. This is the actual copy that you are writing. Frame your offer to include money back promises and performance guarantees, making it safe and completely risk-free for strangers to say yes to you. Now, this depends where you are. I think when you're starting out, you probably want to err more on this, but from things I've experienced, from things I've seen, when you lead with the guarantee and then you just want to sign anybody, these people can be like headaches to you. So you want to frame your offer for people that generally have the capital and cash flow to pay you comfortably, because if you do sign the wrong person, they can just be more of a headache than you get paid to serve them for. So balance that. Don't make your offer so nice to have or so irresistible where you end up attracting everybody and anybody, and then you just make things difficult for yourself. I'm talking from experience here. Like, just avoid that and make the value obvious. So make it obvious, make your ROI obvious. If you're selling websites, for example, don't just sell the website, sell the benefits of having that website. They have more prestige, they look more professional, they get more visibility. So just sell that, and then you tie that into the money that we'll be making. Yeah, so your service should also have a fast turnaround of results, so something you should easily be able to get results for. Fulfillment is very important. So whatever you're trying to do, you should also try and make it make sense on the fulfillment side, something that you can easily systematize and make work. You really don't want to get into a process where you do end up signing a couple of new clients and then be cold email or using cold calling, maybe LinkedIn outreach, or a system where you do all these things. Just make sure that the customer can get results, and then the time taken to get that results is it's not too long. If not, churn becomes a thing, becomes an issue. So churn is like when you start to lose customers. Average churn is about 15%. Average churn rate is about 15%. Anything more than 20%, you should be looking into that. Okay, so now executing the copywriting framework. So this is the actual copy that you're writing. Send emails strictly in plain text format. Obviously you should not be putting links in your cold emails, especially when you're sending more than I think even more than one. If you're sending to like a prospect you've never contacted before and they've never responded back to you, use plain HTML. Images or links in the initial send should not be used. structure your copy using these blocks. So start with like a relevance line, just a quick intro, then a relevance line, and then ask a simple question that highlights a challenge, and then offer a statement, how you solve that specific problem, and then a call to action. And then I would add a friendly opt-out, but I would also replace with like a simple PS. This just adds a bit of humanity into what you are writing. So phase 5 will be campaign management and high volume. So this is actually where people tend to make the mistakes. This is actually where people tend to make the mistake, because cold email is heavily dependent on volume. To generate consistent results and book calls, you should quickly aim to send about 500 to 1,000 emails per day. Closer to 1,000, if not more, across your entire infra. Syntax is everything, so use AI to create variations of your greeting sentences and sign-offs. So spam filters cannot fingerprint your emails as bulk mass templates. So this is just where sending the same email, even though you add the name personalization, the filters tend to pick up on similar things. So if you're just saying the same thing but you're changing the name, Google and Microsoft will pick up on that, and then they will fingerprint your email, and then you end up having that land in spam. So keep follow-up briefs. Only use a 2 steps email sequence. Now this one is very true. You see sharp diminishing returns after sending 2 emails. If after 24 48 hours, 2 days is probably max. If they don't respond in like 2 days, they are probably not interested. So you should probably skip that. Follow up once 48 hours after the first email. If they don't respond, just leave them and move on, because it's just better to look for people. You're in the business of looking for people that actually need your service. Contrary to popular opinion, you should probably try to avoid convincing people why they need you. You should deal more with problem aware prospects, because then there's a lot of convincing you need, and you're not running paid ads yet where you can do some kind of retargeting or education. No, you're just pitching to them, do you need this or not? And you don't have to go through every single prospect and try to let them know why cold email is the most cost effective channel for them to book more meetings, or why cold calling under the right circumstance could triple their booked meeting rates. If they don't if they are closed-minded to the fact that you can generate these results, move on. Somebody else is waiting for you. Somebody else needs you. So don't waste too much time there. So phase 6, which would be leveraging success multipliers. So curate your online presence. So that would be something as simple as having a LinkedIn profile, having a YouTube, things like that, because when you do get these prospects interest, they will search you up. So if you just end up searching Francis Ihejirika or Francis Ihejirika, you will see my name. You'll probably see me on LinkedIn like I'm a real person. Like these YouTube videos also supplement the fact that I'm a real person and I know exactly what I'm talking about. Build proof, construct a professional informative landing page featuring a VSL. So this is very important, especially if you like link your website. So in the signature, if like leave your company name there, like they just see that, and then the VSL educates them more of what they are trying to do, and they can then book in from there. But you know, if you're doing cold calls, that would be different because you're booking them straight from the call. But then when you do get their email, this is where like the pre-call sequence comes from. There you can send the VSL and the FAQs and then the pre-call assets, so that you know they are more informed before they actually get into the call. It has the same effect on the cold email to VSL funnel that they would see there. So it's just about, you know, proof and credibility. These guys, they just want to see that you know what you're doing. You don't need to have like 10,000 followers. In fact, I don't even think I have up to, as of filming this in March 9th 2026, I don't even think I have up to like 10 subscribers. But I don't need that many. The function of these videos is just to demonstrate competency. That is the function of these videos, and I'm just going to keep on putting more of these here to solidify the fact that I know what I'm talking about and I'm not just BSing. I've lived through these things. It has worked for me, it has worked for others, and I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know exactly how to get results. So this is kind of everything. As usual, I'll probably update this, probably make this better, just add a few more things to it, and then I'll link it down in the description if you need it. I'll probably add more info, like more useful things, add more tactical elements to it. So if you do need this document, just go down below. I think that should be, if you do need help scaling your B2B company, you exclusively have to have an existing sales team. So you should have a minimum of 3 people on your sales team, ideally, and you should have your LTV for the customers you serve should be greater than 15,000. So if you do meet these requirements, you can also just book a call and then apply, see if you're a fit, and then we can also work with you on that to get you these results as well, using cost-effective channels like cold email and then cold calling as well. Coupled together, the results when you combine these together are like excellent. So if you do need help with this, or you know you'd like to get started or even learn more, apply, book a call, and then see if it's a fit. Yeah, that should be all for now. I don't have a lot of videos as of filming this. I would have recommended some to you, but maybe I will have, but as of right now I don't. So you know, chat soon.